G'day viewers, welcome to a new type of video that I'm going to call What You Should Be Angry About Today. WISBAT. It's not the most grabby of acronyms. Maybe I'll workshop that. But here's something I'm angry about, and if you're at all a reasonable person, you should be angry about it too. Over the weekend, there was a bit of a storm over a broadcaster from SBS here in Australia. His name's Scott McIntyre, and on Anzac Day, he posted a couple of honestly only slightly contentious tweets about what he saw as the adulation of the Anzac idea. He basically raised the point that soldiers do questionable things. He thinks the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki were a bad thing. He called them the worst terrorist act in history. And, you know, that many of the drunken yobbos going, woo! Anzac Day are fucking morons who should actually be educated on some of life's realities. Now, timing-wise, I honestly think he's being a bit douchey. There's a time and a place, and I think I've said this before, that on Anzac Day, I think no matter where you are in how you see the day, if you can observe it in your way without being a complete dick about it, you're doing okay. But whether I agree with you or not, if you go really dickish with your views, I'm not really a fan. And what ended up happening, it's not just that people said, how dare you, he actually got sacked. He's a soccer presenter and he ended up getting sacked for shit that actually, what you might disagree with his tone and his timing, but factually, it's actually difficult to argue with what he said. And yet, the communications minister, Malcolm Turnbull, said, oh, it was despicable. It's difficult to think of more inappropriate or insensitive things to say. And it's like, fucking what? It's real easy to think of more offensive and more inappropriate things. Hey, why don't you sit with your revered leader for 5 fucking minutes and he's gonna say something more offensive, okay? And all the Conservatives jumped on, oh, lynch him, lynch him, lynch him. And Turnbull actually rang the head of SBS and said, this is no good. And he gets sacked. And yet Turnbull goes, oh, but I had no influence over that decision. The communications minister calls the head of a government-funded broadcaster and has a spray about someone who then gets fired. But he had no influence? Fuck off! If there's one thing I really can't stand, it's hypocrites. People who just fucking talk out both sides of their mouth at the same time and expect to be taken seriously. All the Conservative pundits who jumped on this and went, oh, yeah, sack him. Where the fuck are you now with your free speech? If he had posted anti-Muslim statements and got sacked, you would have lost your tiny fucking minds. You would have gone off, oh, political correctness, gone mad. This is the sort of bullshit that makes me really angry. I honestly know next to nothing about this Scott McIntyre guy. And technically, yes, his employer is within their rights to fire him if they think he did something too far on social media. But everyone who called for his sacking, everyone involved in his sacking, is a filthy, slimy, hypocritical piece of shit. And this is the sort of shit you should be angry about.